I think this is actually going to be the shortest tier list that I've ever done, for a number of reasons. One being, this is obviously only Legendaries. I will be doing a second video talking about all of the commons, rares, and epics, and this is going to be an incredibly short video because I don't have a lot to say. I feel like this is all very self-explanatory. And the only thing that I hope to accomplish is my S tier category now is support units. And the one thing that I want you to take away from this tier list is to upgrade all of your support units. And as soon as you have a max DPS unit that you can focus on, that you have, stop focusing on DPS units and focus on literally all of these support units instead. But I will get into that when I get to that. I did want to leave this on the screen so that you can read it and weep, because I believe this is this is the only tier list that should exist, that probably does exist, and these are 100% correct answers, and there is no variation, and this is the only thing that you should follow, because this is 100% right, and literally nobody in the comments will say otherwise, because they will all write in the comments, your tier list is 100% right. I do not disagree with you at all. That's what every comment in my comment section will say. It'll be like, you are so right. This is the definitive, absolutely correct tier list that will ever exist. I trust that if you scroll into the comments, that will be every comment. And so without further ado, this is how we are breaking this down. I feel like every single time I do a tier list, I have a new way of breaking things down. And so for my last tier list, I had an S+, and then I had an S++ category that everybody was all pissy about. And then all those S++ units got nerfed, and now they all suck. I remember in my last tier list when I made an S++ category for all of the percent damage units, and I was like, this is the best thing in this game. Like, nothing can beat this. Like, they are playing on a completely different playing field. You can think that Riding Hood is the best unit, but, like, Corsair is the best unit. And guess what they did to Corsair? It's all the way down there. So this tier list is much different, obviously. I have separated this into event units, S tier units, A tier units, B tier units, and just F tier units. F tier units being units that you should probably just stop using altogether. Shaman in there, you might question to yourself, and I should use Shaman. I'm like, no, you probably shouldn't. And I'll get to why. But we're going to start from the top and then go all the way to the bottom. And without further ado, here we go. So event units. If I wanted to make an S++ category, it would be this. Literally every single event unit is the best unit in the game. It's the best units in this game now. They have now, changed to where every single best unit is now an event unit. They did this as soon as when they went from throwing Riding Hood into the legendary pool, and then immediately taking it out of the legendary pool and making it an event unit. When they finally added Genie to the game, it went from being an event unit to an event unit. And so now Royal Trials, Mirror Match, and Rush for Glory have all the best units. You might notice that Minotaur is not in there. It's because it's all the way down here. It's somewhere down here. We'll get to it. But in terms of what are the best units in this game, event units. Event units are the best units in this game. DPS-wise, every single event unit is the best DPS unit in this game. Spirit Master and Riding Hood are both fighting for the top spots in this game. They are both the best units in this game, by far. If you look into worldwide, you look into any top tier ranking, it's just all Spirit Master decks versus other Spirit Master decks, or Spirit Master decks versus Riding Hood decks. I can see Spirit Master getting hard nerfed after this patch. Like in 25, in like a 25.0. This is 24.0, in like a 25.0. Maybe even like hotfix patched, like in a 24.1. I could see it getting nerfed in some way, shape, or form. I still think it's going to be very good, but I think it will be nerfed to the point where Genie will then resurface, because as of right now, I don't see Genie anywhere at all. And the specific reason for why is because most people that have Genie maxed probably have Spirit Master maxed, and they have Riding Hood maxed. And Spirit Master right now, Spirit Master and Riding Hood are both way better, apparently, than Genie, to where nobody at high tier levels are playing Genie. I say nobody, and I trust that nobody in the comments will write, oh, I see a Genie deck. There's a Genie deck in the top 100. I trust that there are Genie decks, but what I'm telling you is that every single time I have ever looked in any kind of high tier gameplay, even like mid tier gameplay, it's all Spirit Master and Riding Hood. That's it. You'll see Genie decks, but they will have lost to a Riding Hood or a Spirit Master deck. I didn't prep this, obviously. I'm just going to casually look through. This is 10. This is 9. This is Spirit Master versus Spirit Master, 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 Spirit Master versus Spirit Master. Maybe if I go like all the way to the top, 16. This is 15. The season just reset, so there's probably not going to be a lot of people in this, like, all the way at the top already. But hey, maybe. I just remember that... Okay, so this is where you'll see a little bit of variation. Nope, this is all Spirit Master versus Spirit Master. I think there was one that was, like, a Blade Dancer. This is 7. Spirit Master versus Monk, Spirit Master versus Demon Hunter. Spirit Master is winning all of these. Spirit Master versus Spirit Master, Spirit Master versus Sea Dog, Spirit Master versus Engineer, Spirit Master versus Spirit Master, Spirit Master versus Monk, and yeah, Spirit Master is just winning everything. It's just beating literally everything. It is overly dominant right now, to the point where I think that people who have a max Genie, the few people that have a max Genie, probably have a max Spirit Master, and at which point they are just deciding to run either Spirit Master or Riding Hood, and those are the two most dominant decks, to the point where you don't even see Genie. And I think that if Spirit Master gets even slightly nerfed anywhere, in any form, maybe like, the Elixir of Purification doesn't do a 100% cleanse, or it does even less than a 50% chance to cleanse. If they decided to nerf it to where it was like 10% cleanse or something, and Spirit Masters had to choose whether or not to run Mermaid or Mari, I think that would be a hard nerf, because having to choose would be a thing. And I think that there are things that they could do to nerf Spirit Master, because they can do anything that they want, right? I feel like if they nerfed Spirit Master even a little bit, you'll start seeing Genie decks again. Because I think Genie decks are good, but if given the choice between using your max level Spirit Master or your max level Genie, I think people at this point are just choosing to either use Spirit Master or Riding Hood, and that's why you don't see Genie. But I am still going to put it at third place, because I do think that if it got nerfed, you would start seeing Genies again, and Genie and Spirit Master and Riding Hood should be like the top 3 meta decks right now. Tesla is showing some impressive numbers. I think that Robot is the only real deck that is a toxic deck. There is a Sea Dog deck that I think is kind of fine. In terms of event decks, I think that Sea Dog... I don't think that Sea Dog... I think that people are still using a max Sea Dog, but because because Toxic got so heavily nerfed, for a Sea Dog deck to work, it takes so many things. It takes an active max Necromancer, a max Sea Dog, a max Frost. You need so many just maximum things in order for it to even kind of be fine. And anything less, like if you have a max Sea Dog, but you don't have like a level 15 Necromancer, if you have a max Necromancer, but you don't have a max Frost, anything of lesser value, you can't even run the deck. I think that Sea Dog is fine in that deck. And I've seen that deck beat a Spirit Master deck because it is the only consistent form of actual destruction now that they super heavily nerf Shaman. I think that if you are going to run a destructive type deck, the Sea Dog deck is the only one to run. And that's why I placed it so high. I do think that Robot is obviously better. I think Robot is a better Toxic card. I think a deck with Necromancer, Robot, Witch, Frost is the deck to run. I think that you could still theoretically maybe run Clock with it. Robot Clock is still a thing. Tesla Clock is still a thing. But I think in terms of like event units, that's my tier list. Spirit Master is very heavily at the top. Far and away above a lot of things. I think Riding Hood is number 2. And then like a big gap between the event units, is then Genie and Tesla, and then Robot, and then Spirit, and then Sea Dog. So my new S tier category, that these are now. So I wanted to place all of the event units basically in its own thing because they are so heavily prevalent. I think that Sea Dog is better than a Minotaur and a Meteor, Sea Dog is better in a Toxic deck than a Minotaur. And that's why I placed it in there, and as opposed to where I placed my the Minotaur is lower in the list. I just wanted you to know that if I had any ranking of what events that you should go for as of right now, it would be this. It would be in order this list. But I do think that if you are going to invest in Sea Dog, you need to invest in a whole lot of other things other than just Sea Dog, and they all have to be like level 15. For my new S tier category, because I feel like that's what most people gravitate towards, like what are the S tier cards? What are the best cards? I used to do this in DPS order. I used to do this in like, it's just all like, basically like supports were always in my S tier, but it was also filtered in with DPS cards. I think that currently it is much more important to upgrade all of your support cards upgrade all of your support cards as long as you have a strong DPS card. If you have a level 15 Blade Dancer, if you have a level 15 Inquisitor, if you have a level 15 Spirit Master, right? Stop focusing on upgrading your Monk and your Cultist and your Bruiser. Stop focusing on all of your other DPS units. Do not collect DPS units in this game. It is much better to upgrade all of these supports as opposed to upgrading all of your DPSs. You can only run one DPS unit in a deck at a time, and you are going to run 4 supports. It is far more important to level 15 all of these supports before you even try to upgrade another DPS unit. Currently, in my Magic, the exchange, as soon as I find it, these are all of this is my Magic Lab. I want Banshee for the level 15 ability, Harlequin because it's going to get talents, Summoner, Trapper, and Witch. This is what your Magic Lab should look like. Like, if you have a Magic Lab that's all DPS units, you need to change something. Because you can only run one DPS unit. And having a level 15 Inquisitor and having a level 15 Spirit Master and having a level 15 Blade Dancer and then having level 7 all of your support units, it is a bad choice in this game as of right now. Because all of these units now do extra things. It is not just a Knight Statue. It is not just a Scrapper. It is not just a Witch. It is not just a Summoner. All of these things do extra things. And in terms of like Trapper, because I know that you're going to say, oh, Trapper doesn't do anything, right? But it does what it does better. And a level 15 Trapper is going to give you more defense reduction than a level 7 Trapper. And so it does what it does, but better. It's like a clock. Having a level 15 clock is very different than having a level 7 clock. In terms of what I think is the best support unit, I want to say Night Statue. I think the argument could be made that it could be Witch, but I do think that Night Statue is being used in freaking everything. I question whether or not to place Witch at the top of supports or Night Statue, and Night Statue is simply in every deck. It is in Spirit Master, it is in Blade Dancer, it is in Inquisitor, it is in Riding Hood, it is in everything. It is in every single deck, specifically because you can add stacks to Night Statue, whether you're running it in Covenant of Veteran or if you're running Sharpened Spear. And the more efficiently you can add stacks to Night Statue, the longer you will go in a game. And with the addition of Scrapper, it just made Covenant of Veteran even better. It was good before, but the new Scrapper and being able to downgrade and then merge and then downgrade and then merge and then downgrade and merge, like that just gave it so much power. When you have two Night Statues next to each other and a Scrapper in between, and you are doing double stacks on Night Statue for the entirety of the game, that is insane. Mirror match games are going to come down to who can finish their growth tiles faster and then who can do double stack Night Statue stacks faster. That's what games are going to come down to. Mirror match games are going to come down to that. And I feel like Night Statue in either form, Sharpened Spear or Covenant of Veteran, is incredibly strong when it's used in all of the decks that it's being used in. And it's being used in so many decks. Like suffice it to say, except for like a Monk deck and maybe like a Merge deck, like a Robot deck or a Minotaur Meteor deck. But every other deck is pretty much using a Night Statue in either form. And that's how people are getting insane numbers right now. I do think Scrapper and Witch are both interchangeable because they are both used in different ways. I think that, with the Witch, you get the insta-kill from the 13. Obviously, Gift of the Raven is the specific reason why you are using it. If you have a sub-level 15 Witch, all of those stacks that you are doing with Gift of the Raven is just going to be worse. And that is the reason why you are upgrading a Witch past level 11. Even though you get the insta-kill from your 11 ability, even though the 13 ability is not that it doesn't seem like it's that amazing, and the level 15 ability seems like something you would never use, the reason why you are upgrading it is because you are doing the same amount of work with a level 11 Witch that you are doing with a level 15 Witch, but your Gift of the Raven with a level 15 Witch is going to be so much higher. And that is the reason why you want to upgrade your Witch to max. Gift of the Raven becomes better, and that is the specific reason why you're using Witch. Scrapper, I do think edges out Witch just a little bit. Being able to use a Recycler in as well as the Acrid Waste, being able to buff your entire field 30% flat for 15 seconds every time you eat anything is insanity. The Acrid Waste doing up to 26%, doing 13 or 26% is crazy. And then triple quota is absolutely insane. Getting double upgrades used to feel good. Triple quota is insanity. The fact that they actively lowered the amount of Scrapper hits that you need to eat is also crazy. Being able to eat 3 things and then on your 4th hit every single time, being able to triple quota off of that is crazy. The amount of control that you can have with Scrapper is insane. The idea that you only need 3 spaces to infinitely Scrapper over and over and over, and all it costs you are 3 spaces, allows you to run double support. You can run Spirit Master decks are running either Trapper and Chemist, or Chemist and Witch, or Trapper and Witch, or Witch and Chemist. Like every single Spirit Master deck, or Demon Hunter deck, or Blade Dancer deck, they're all running double supports now because of how good Scrapper is. I think that if you could take anything to level 15 in terms of support cards, maybe even more than a Night Statue, even though I think Night Statue is more useful in most decks, I think that if you can take a Scrapper to 15, take a Scrapper to 15. You will not regret it. I do think that Trapper at level 15 is very strong. It is in so many decks right now. People are doubling up on Trapper and Chemist. And the real question is, do you use Trapper and Chemist, or Witch, or Banshee? What combination do you use? Because those are pretty much the best support cards. Summoner is good at 13 and 15, but I understand that it's high investment, because if you have a lesser Summoner, you're not getting the full benefits of a Summoner. If you do have it at 13 and 15, it is very good in very specific decks, namely the Riding Hood deck, because you need so many extra units so that the Riding Hood can eat them. But I do think that the other ones are better because they are used in more things. Banshee, I think that Banshee is very specifically good because of the level 15 ability. It's because we don't have Bombardier anymore. That is why Banshee became so sought after. But I also do think that Banshee in and of itself is also a good DPS card. There are like very successful Banshee decks. And just being able to negate the boss that you don't like, and activating your ability when you see that boss that you don't like, whether it be a Tribunal if it's early, or whether it be a Bedlam if it's late. I think that is it's just such a good effect. You could say that Frost does the exact same thing, but you have to get the Mark of Ice on a Frost, and you have to merge out that with another Frost, and that becomes the problem. Like, you can't just keep summoning in a Mark of Ice Frost. With Banshee, all you need is the one Banshee in the corner. It will hit everything that comes out of the gate. It'll negate bosses. It slices, it dices, it makes julienne fries. Like, it just does so many things. I do think that Dryad has fallen off. I think that the nerf on Dryad, not being able to be used with Monk, and then in that case, you have to choose whether or not to use Dryad or, not being able to use it with Scrapper. The fact that you now have to choose between using it or using Dryad, and then they nerfed it, but then they also nerfed it in the sense that now, with Fairy of Rage, merging 20 Dryads, or upgrading 20 units with a Fairy of Rage Dryad, it now gives you a maximum of 30% boost, as opposed to what it did before, which was a 50% boost. I feel like the nerf that you have to use one or the other was already a big enough nerf, but the fact that it got double nerf with a 50% down to a 30% is even worse. Then they also took away the mana, which wasn't anything that I ever even realized that it had, but then that was a third nerf. I think that Dryad works specifically well in the decks that it's used in. It's used in Monk. It's used in like a Dark Inquisitor type deck. It's used in, like, there are specific decks that it's used. It's used in Riding Hood. And I think that it's good in those specific decks because it's a Dryad. But I do hope that whenever they get around to doing Harlequin talents, I think that when they do Harlequin talents, Dryad will have a resurgence. And I think that Dryad will then become used more often. But as of right now, I think that Scrapper is just so far and away above Dryad that in most decks, you'd rather just run Scrapper and have the lesser Scrapper hits, as opposed to the having to eat 7 levels of things. I think that Enchant Sword is also very specifically used in Monk, and not really much else. I think that there are better, easier to use support cards. I think that Witch and Trapper, there are just so many. It's the fact that there are just so many good support cards that I think Enchant Sword is starting to fall off. They buffed it by giving you more orbs, but I don't even think that matters because it's just so much work. I think being able to if you wanted to merge something, I think Witch is better to merge because then you get all the effect, but you only need whenever you merge witches, but you only need like a level 1 witch next to your main DPS unit. With Enchant Sword, you just have to hope that all of your orbs go to your DPS unit, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it goes to your other support units. Sometimes it goes to your Knight statue. Things that don't care about your Enchant Sword orbs. And because of that, I don't think Enchant Sword is that great, but I also don't think that it's terrible. I think it's about right here. Harlequin, specifically because it doesn't have talents, and the idea that it only copies, is why it's so low. I think that as soon as it gets talents, as soon as it can do more than what it simply does, and it does something and then plus, like a Scrapper. If Scrapper only scrapped and upgraded, it wouldn't be that great. But it's because of the Recycler ability. It's because of the Acrid Waste ability. If Harlequin gets something like that, I think that it can become better. But for right now, I do think it's still in an S tier category. It's just at the bottom of it. In terms of the best of the rest, if these are the best DPS cards, your question should now be, what is the best of the rest? What is a good legendary card that will not probably defeat a event tier legendary card, but is still pretty good? I think that answer is Inquisitor. I think that Inquisitor, with all the nerfs that it's always gotten, it's just gotten nerfed after nerfed after nerfed. I think that Inquisitor still holds strong. I think that Scrapper Inquisitor with Light Inquisitor is still is a strong contender for a deck. You can basically play it like a Spirit Master deck, like a Blade Dancer deck, like a Demon Hunter deck. You're playing the decks the same way. You're just replacing a card. If you look at any good Spirit Master game, just play a Inquisitor deck with just sub out Inquisitor, a Light Inquisitor, and just do the same exact thing, and you're basically it'll be pretty good, because that's what Blade Dancer decks are doing. That's what Demon Hunter decks are doing. You're utilizing Knight Statue, you're utilizing Scrapper, you're utilizing some combination of Witch, Trapper, Chemist, or Banshee. And I think that if you play a Light Inquisitor just like that, I think that it's still pretty good. It has the cleanse on Light Inquisitor, and then that's not even to mention Dark Inquisitor. I think Dark Inquisitor Clock is still very strong. I think that there are Dark Inquisitor, regular Dark Inquisitor with just Scrapper and Scrapper and Knight Statue feeding into all the stacks. I think that's still very strong. I think that in any kind of variation of Inquisitor is still very good. Cultist is my dark horse. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Cultist is one of the strongest cards in this game now. Maybe it has been for a while, and I've just never wanted to admit it, but Cultist is one of the strongest cards in this game. I think that with Scrapper talents, it also made it even more consistent and better. I think that it made it even easier to get all of your Cultist stacks. I think that if you are running a crit bow and you have the max talent, that is incredibly strong. It basically just murders everything. It just like insta kills so many things for so long. And it's just, and with Scrapper, it just became so much more consistent. I think Monk Blessing is still pretty strong. If you are using Equilibrium, stop. Most high level, billions of damage, like tens of billions of damage, players are using Monk Blessing. And the specific reason to use Monk Blessing over Monk Equilibrium is that Monk Blessing, you have the ability to use all of these amazing support cards. We have found that a 1-unit deck that was running Monk is not good. When they had the 1-unit glitch, that worked for lesser levels, when you were facing people in League 5, League 6 maybe. But once it started going into like League 10, League 11, the 1-unit Monk deck, even when that was a glitch, it wasn't working because it doesn't have any support card. You're not running a Trapper. You're not running a Chemist. You're trying to out damage simply by base level and time. And it's not good enough. When you run Monk Blessing, you have the ability to give it infinite stacks. You are doing a stack. You are doing a stack-based system. You are adding a Trapper. You are adding a Chemist. You are adding a Banshee. You are adding a Witch. You're giving yourself a different dimension. That's not just you are solely relying on your Monk. Monk Blessing is where it's at. Look for it in the top decks, and you'll understand how to play it. There is a Bruiser Necromancer deck that is out there that is doing actually reasonably well. I just like to see that people are using Necromancer in a non-toxic way. But there is a Necromancer Bruiser deck that is doing pretty well. It's doing like tens of billions of damage. And I think that it's very strong. I think that Blade Dancer Floral Frenzy version got so much better with Scrapper. I do think that it is above a Demon Hunter. I think that Demon Hunter fell off so hard. I obviously put Clock in here because Clock is being used in Tesla Clock, Robot Clock, Inquisitor Clock, but I also don't think that it's a card that you should really focus on unless you are building that specific strategy. Because it only does the one thing, and it does the one thing very well, but it is technically a support card that is in those other decks. So you should probably focus on getting either a Tesla, a Robot, or a Inquisitor to max. Then you could theoretically focus on. Then you should probably focus on your support cards, but then you could focus on Clock. I don't want to rate Clock too highly, but it is a specific part in specific decks, and it is very strong in those decks. I do think that Demon Hunter fell off a cliff. As much as I've seen people try to break Demon Hunter, what it basically comes down to just feels like a bad Spirit Master deck, and a bad Spirit Master deck is to a lesser extent, a Light Inquisitor deck, which is and then a bad Light Inquisitor deck is a Blade Dancer deck, and then a bad Blade Dancer deck, I feel, is a Demon Hunter deck. Maybe you can interchangeably say that Demon Hunter is a little bit better than a Blade Dancer deck, like a Floral Frenzy Blade Dancer deck. But with Floral Frenzy, because you're getting the Whirlwind ability, I think that is a high improvement, that you don't specifically need 40 ranks of Blade Dancers in order for it to be good. And I think that because you are relying on getting 40 rank Demon Hunters in order for it to be good, I think that that's a huge detriment. You can get Warlocked and immediately lose that bonus and then just die. You could theoretically lose a level 7 late game Blade Dancer and survive. And I think that for that reason, because they are essentially the same decks, you're just changing one card out, and you're just changing the DPS card out. Spirit Master is at the top, then Light Inquisitor, then Blade Dancer, and then Demon Hunter. Because I think that if a Demon Hunter deck lost a level 7, it would just die in the next round. It's not great anymore. For as many people as I've seen try to break it, it doesn't feel strong anymore. And it's very sad. But it was at the top for so long. I think that Minotaur and Meteor have also fallen off a cliff. They heavily nerfed the percent damage deck, and when they did that, I think that both of those decks suffered. They nerfed the Meteor. I believe they nerfed the Meteor chance of getting an orb. To summon in a new orb. And when you can't summon in new orbs and you're not getting that percentage damage, I think it's a big detriment. I think that Minotaur is fine, but I don't think that the deck is that great anymore. It's just not putting up impressive numbers. Corsair, I feel like, is a better DPS unit than Shaman. And Boreas, but that's not really saying, it's a better DPS unit than Boreas, but that's not really saying that much. I think that if you have a max Corsair, I think it is probably better than a max Boreas, especially with the J nerf. There was a Boreas deck before, when J was what it was. But I think that with J not being great anymore, I don't think that Boreas is that great anymore. And in terms of Frost, I think that Frost is a very good card at max level, and beyond max level, I don't think that it's good at all. If you don't have the Frost King ability, I don't know why you're using Frost. And because they so heavily nerfed Toxic, I don't think that it's necessarily a card that you even want to focus on, unless you want to take all of those things to 15. Like I aforementioned in the Sea Dog deck, you need a max level Sea Dog, you need a max level Necromancer, you need a max level Frost, and any of these things at sub level 15 are just bad. Like, you can use a Spirit Master that's a level 13, you can use a Blade Dancer that's a level 11, you cannot use a Frost that is less than 15, you cannot use a Sea Dog that is less than 15, like, you cannot use a Necromancer that is less than 15. It's just not as good. And all of those talents are making it kind of okay. Like, not great, because a Spirit Master deck or Riding Hood deck are still going to kill you. But that is the only way to be competitive with those decks. And because of the high investment, that's the only reason why I ranked Frost as low as it is. It is still, I think, a B card. I think it's still fine, but I do think that you just need so much of a heavy investment for it to be even kind of okay. And then in terms of my F tier cards, this should all be obvious. The fact that Shaman now has the ability to hit nothing is insane. It's an insane nerf. The fact that it has the ability to target nothing is insanity. It makes Shaman so bad, to the point where a robot deck isn't even using Shaman. It would rather use a Witch, like the toxic version of Witch, which I haven't seen in so long. The fact that it would rather use something that most decks can cleanse and will not immediately kill, but they're saying it's better than using a Shaman that could hit nothing, is very telling of where Shaman is in this game. There's a part of me that wants to think that the reason why they nerfed it so hard is so that they can give it talents to make it quote unquote better. So that they could give it talents to be like, oh, sometimes you'll send out 2 shamans, right? Sometimes, like you have a 10% chance of sending out 3 shamans, right? I feel like that's what they're setting up Shaman for, to give it talents at some point, and then all of a sudden it becomes good again, like a Corsair. But as of right now, as of what it currently is, it is awful. Boreas, like I just said, is not good without J having the crack shot ability. And the fact that they nerfed it to 3% chance of J hitting, nerfed Boreas even more than it has already been nerfed. And then the bottom 3, Stasis, Demon Hunter, and Hex, nobody uses in any kind of serious regard. You'll see them every so often in random decks, but not successful ones. Nobody uses it in any serious deck. But yeah, that's my list. Let me know how 100% right I am in the comments, and how you completely agree with every single one of my decisions, and how this is the most accurate tier list that you've ever seen, and that everything is incredibly correct. Yeah, let me know. Stay tuned for my next video, which is going to be everything else, commons, rares, and epics. I think that one should be a pretty quick